Okay, yeah. So again, my name is Gina Ami, in short, Gina Ami, and yeah, we are going to talk about applying for schools in Canada and in the US. I know that most people are interested in this topic, and I'm very glad to share the little knowledge that I have on this topic. So, definitely finding the right school and programs is everything. Okay, it's going to help you to succeed with your university application. Okay, so before you even apply for a school, or if you're in Ghana, wherever you are, before you decide to look for a school and apply, you need to be able to identify your goals. Okay, what are your career and your academic goals? You identify that, and then you know what what program you want to do. Do you prefer a research based or a course like based programs? Those are the things that you need to know before you even start this whole process. Um, what are your non-academic preferences? That will be like the location, where exactly you want to, for example, if you want to come to Canada, where exactly do you want to go? Do you know the province you want to go? I'm saying this because there are people who may not be able to stand certain weathers. Okay, so if you Google, you would know that places like, for example, where I'm in Vancouver, you know that Vancouver is not that cold as compared to the Atlantic provinces and other places like Ontario and the Albertas, right? It depends on your situation. So you need to be able to know where you want to go, okay? And living, I mean, the cost of living. Everybody will tell you that Vancouver and Ontario is very expensive. Okay, it's so it depends on what you want. If you don't mind with the weather, then you can say that okay, I can study in Alberta, I can go to Prince Edward Island, I can go to New Brunswick. Even though it's very cold, you're able to you still want to go because probably the cost of living over there is quite less as compared to other places. Now we're going to go to research universities. So how do you research the universities that you want to go? How are you able to know that okay, so this university will fit what I am, will fit my interest? So I'm on Facebook and people mostly reach out, Gina, can you recommend a school to me? And I feel like, the world has evolved so much, and I sometimes, to some extent, I feel like anybody should be able to search for schools. But sometimes it's quite interesting to know that people don't know how to even search for schools. Number one, all that I can tell you is to just go to Google, for example, and Google, universities in Canada. Okay. You check all the universities, and when you're applying for university in Canada, especially due to immigration changes and all of that, you need to be sure that whatever university you're applying to, you're going to get you're going to get a postgraduate work permit afterwards. I'm not sure, but to some extent, I think that some of you may have heard all the changes that has gone on in Canada lately. Last year, there have been a lot of changes, and so when you're applying for schools, you need to be very careful because most people who come as students will they want to go back. They actually want to be able to get a job, get your permanent resident, become a citizen. And after getting a citizenship, if you choose not to even stay in Canada, it's I mean, you have the opportunity to do whatever you want to do. That's what I'm trying to say. Right. So you need to be able to check the provinces and universities, government universities, the public universities that will grant you your postgraduate permit after school. Okay, so I'm going to share this website with you. With this topuniversities.com. If you can, just screenshot this thing that I'm sharing with you because okay, so this very one, QS Top Universities is a platform that I would recommend that anybody uses if you're looking for a school. Okay, so this is how the website looks like. So you go to the whatever you want to study, whether being bachelor's, master's, MBA, PhD. Let's choose masters for here, and then which country you want to study in the United States. Let's choose Canada, and then whatever subject you want to study, whether okay, let's choose economics. Okay. Okay, so you, how it's running is going to give you um so yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is that you have to complete everything, which year you want to study. Let's choose 2026. Canada, country of residence, you're from, let's say, Ghana. So you put all these details in, and then it will give you a list of schools. Okay, depending on the program I'm not going to sign up. Okay, so guys, so it will give, it's going to give you a list of schools where you want to. I believe you all saw the results. It was coming up. They want me to sign up, which I'm not ready to. So as you can see, these are some of the schools. Okay, so it's going to give you a list of school for that particular program. Okay, that was just by the way. Um, Let me stop sharing and come back to my slides. Okay, yeah. So and the Times Higher Education. Yeah, when you Google that, you should be able to see that. And so these are also places that can help you find what you want to do and which university you want to go to. Okay, so these websites are good and can provide you the best information you ever need. Okay. And just to also let you know that when you're applying to schools, you need to be very much um, realistic and true to yourself. If, for example, your GPA is very good, like maybe 3.6 plus, you may choose a top tier university or middle school. Okay. But if your GPA is like an average one, for example, 3.4 to 3.6, you should be targeting the middle tier school. And so you don't just do random applications. I have met people who think that they don't really check anything. They just go ahead and apply. You're probably just throwing money away. So you need to also check all these things before you apply for the school that you want to apply to. And yeah, you need to compare the um, admission requirements, the funding opportunities, program that fits you and your career, and how you're going to, if there's prospect when it comes to career. Okay, so those are some things that you really need to consider before you apply for a school. So this is all part of the search program, like whatever you're going to do, how you're going to search for school. This is part of the beginning of all the whatever you want to do in Canada or in the US. Okay. So yeah, when you're doing that, you have to shortlist schools based on the admission requirements. When you're searching for admission requirements, be sure that whatever the GPA they require is what you're you're using, or you have that GPA to be able to apply into that program. Okay. And yeah, the GPA, the test score, your references, your statement of purpose is all very important. For example, if you want to study data science, you can also go and just search best data science master's program in Canada or in the US. You compare their ranking, the world, they have university rankings. So you can also compare that, and that will also help you to select the best university you want to go to. Okay, so now we are going to talk about how to create your resume. So creating your resume. This is it's a large topic. It's a big topic that I remember last year I did something like this with my team to show how to teach people how they'll be able to put their resumes together. Okay, so when you're doing a resume, this is a part that is very important because with a school application, all of these things are very much needed. So with your resume, I would always advise that you keep it 1 to 2 pages, unless it is stated on the website or yeah, unless the school states that you need probably 3 or 4 pages. But yeah, you keep it simple. So yeah, 1 to 2 pages is what I would recommend. And you have to focus on your education, your work, your research, and leadership. Those are the most important things to focus on. Okay. And use bulletin points and action words. For example, um, help with research, help to research in this area. Those are some of the words you need to be using in your resume. Okay, maybe instead of no, sorry, instead of using something like I helped to do this, you can use you conducted, for example, a data analysis for a research study involving maybe 200 plus participants. Okay, so you can screenshot this if you need it, you can just screenshot this. Okay, so with the structure of the resume, a resume or your CV needs to contain your personal information, okay, which is your education, your GPA, your honors, relevant courseworks that you have done, okay, your work experience. For the work experience, please do also focus on your achievements, your skills. Yeah, so it could be technical and soft skills, both, okay, and your leadership and volunteer. If you've ever volunteered in something, you need to also put that in your resume. Very necessary. It can give you higher points. Okay. So those are the things that will be the quick one for resume. Okay, so now your statement of purpose. Your SOP is just about explaining why you are good and fit for the program. Okay, your statement of purpose, you should be able to explain why you're a good fit for the program. Okay, so the structure of the resume. Your resume always needs to be, there should be an introduction, there should be a background, why you want to do that program, your future goals, and then your conclusion. So in your introduction, you can start with a very strong opening. I think I have an example there that I'm going to share with you. You start with a very strong opening. You can talk about your personal story or an impactful statement. Okay, so you share a story. This is why I want to apply for this program. This is why this research area interests me. Okay, so that is for the introduction and your background. Your background will be your academic and your professional background. You tell them about that. And why this program? Why this specific program and that university? Most of the time, there's so many universities. And so you should be able to convince whoever is reading or whoever is going to give you admission that this is why you're choosing their university to others, okay, as opposed to other universities, and your future goals, how the program fits your goal, your long-term career plan. You should be able to talk about that. And in conclusion, you summarize your commitments and why you think you'll be successful when you're given that opportunity. Okay, so yeah. So I'm going to read an example of the opening to you. Let me see if it's in the next, okay. So this is an example. So my passion for environmental science began during my high school waste recycling campaign, where I led a project that reduced campus waste by maybe by 30%. Okay. So this is also a very strong opening that you can use. This is an example. You can write it down. I'm going to read it again. My passion for environmental science began during my high school's waste recycling campaign where I led a project that reduces compost waste by 40%, 30%, 20%. Okay. Okay, so that is an example of the opening. We are going to go into the letter of recommendation. Very necessary. I've had cases where people will reach out and they'll say, Gina, I am done with everything, but the my references, my professor, especially with the lectures back home, it takes forever for them to get back to me. And so I always advise that if you know that, for example, in 2026, you're going to be applying to school, you need to communicate with them way before, okay, prior to the application. You need to let them know so that you always be on their mind. And when it's time for them to give you what you need, you get it as soon as possible. You get it earlier than, they delaying you and all of that. Okay, so select the right references. So the references most of the time will be your professors, your research advisors, employers that you have worked with over the years. Okay, you have to provide them with your resume and a summary of the program so that when they're giving you, when they're giving you your letter, they'll be able to personalize it. Okay, so the letter should focus on your academic strength, your research potential, your leadership and teamwork. For example, I'm going to use myself as an example. Gina demonstrated exceptional analytical skills while working on a complex data project where she led a team of 3 and improved efficiency by 20%. So these are some of the things that your letter of recommendation should include. Any professor who sees this will be impressed and will be interested in looking more into your whole application. Okay. Yeah. So it says on the slide, it says you need to choose wisely. Yeah. For example, if back home I studied, a professor who taught me, you should be able to know that it's very easy to get whatever I need from this person. They are easily accessible. If you reach out to them, they respond on time. And somebody who really taught you, okay, who know you and will be able to say good things about you. So you need to be able to choose. I mean, in a class, you may have different professors or different lecturers for different programs. You need to be able to select which one you think will do the best job for you. Okay. And yeah, so I mentioned that you share your resume and your program details with the people who will be giving you the recommendation letter, and focus areas. Letter should highlight academic strength, research potentials, and leadership. Yeah, so that is what I talked about. So I'm gonna talk about sample essays. Some schools may actually ask for personal essays or diversity statements. Okay, when you're writing things like that, you really need to keep it authentic. Focus on real experience and challenges you have been able to overcome, and stay within the word count and follow the formatting guidelines. Most schools provide that, so you need to be able, if they are telling you to write maybe 500 words, make sure that you're staying within that. Okay. Yeah. So about the finding contacting supervisors if you're applying for a research master. This is actually for it's more common for people graduate programs and research based degrees. Okay, so if you're finding and contacting a professor, people who are doing research based programs are mostly the people who do that. And so the research faculty you need to be able to check that the program faculty page on the university is on the university website. Okay. And look for professors whose research aligns with yours. So when you go on a page, you need to check that, okay, so I'm interested in this. This professor's research is it's in the same area. We have the same interests. So that is when you reach out to them. Um, Read their recent papers that they have published or written and understand their research direction before you reach out to them. Very necessary. Because even when you're sending them an email, you should be able to, the email should communicate. The email should be able to tell them that, okay, so this person knows what I am doing and probably have read and understood my area of interest, and it aligns with them. So that is why they're reaching out to me. Okay. Your email should be able to contain that. Okay. So sending a professional email. Okay. So this is what I was talking about. Research your faculty. Yeah. So identify whose interest um, aligns with yours. And then you read their work. You are obviously, you familiarize yourself with their recent publications and introduce yourself, connect your background to their research, and then check in if no response after 2 weeks. Yes, that is when, after sending them an email, you don't hear from them, you try to follow up on your email because they get tons of emails. And so you should be able to remind them. And, when you're sending them an email, be sure to, your email should stand out. There's something that should stand out in your email so that even when you follow up, they will be able to know that, oh, this person, I read, their email. This is somebody that I would love to work with. Okay. I'm going to read this to you. So you introduce yourself, your degree, whatever program you did, and whatever university you went to. You mention why, that is when you're sending them the email. Okay. You mention why um, you are interested in their research area, and you explain how your background aligns with their work, and ask if they are currently accepting students, and express interest in discussing your application. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to read an example of that, an opening that you can also use. Um, you can go like, dear professor, and I would recommend that when you're reaching out to them or when you're sending them an email, you don't use maybe Mr. So 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 or Mrs. So so so. Okay, they may be a male. You know how it works here. You may think they are a male or a female, but it might not be so. So just go with their names. Dear, maybe Professor Gina, dear Professor Smith. Okay, go with that. Um, and I am a graduate in environmental science from the University of Ghana. I am very interested in your research on climate change adaptation strategies. I have conducted research on rainfall patterns in West Africa, and I believe my background in data analysis and environmental policies aligns well with your work. Okay. Are you currently accepting graduate students for the upcoming semester? Okay. So this is an example of what you should have in your email that you send to the professor. Okay. Funding opportunities, scholarships. So how do you find scholarships? These are my recommendations. Screenshot it, it will be very useful. So screenshot it. So as you can see, I have listed the scholarships. I have listed 3. I'm going to talk about just the university specific awards. You can check that. You can Google that. You can Google that. You can also go to the universities, like what school, after you have identified the school you want to go to, you go to the school's website and then you go to university specific awards. Okay. And that you'll be able to find what opportunities that are present on the page. Okay. Yeah. So in Canada, you can find the Vanier Canada Graduate Scholarship, Ontario Graduate Scholarships. university specific scholarship. So that is where you go to the university site and then you check. In the US, we have these that you can check. And just a tip for you, when you go um, on any university website, you can look for entrance scholarship. Okay, so when you go on each university's website, you can check for entrance scholarship. And when you go there, you'll be able to find all the scholarships that are available. Okay. And there's teaching assistantship and research assistantship. So with the teaching one, obviously you teach um, help teach grad students. And then with the research, you'll be doing a research for the professor you want to work with. Okay. And that comes with, so sometimes I have friends who went to Simon Fraser University. They were teaching assistant, and so they get paid, and some of the amounts that they are supposed to be paid will be pushed towards their tuition. Okay, so that's how it works. And most assistantship also come with tuition waiver or stipends, the stipend. So yeah, those are some of the um, funding fundings you can come across. Okay. I just want to chip in that if you are currently in the university, if you're currently doing your bachelor's, just put in your best to get a second class upper or first class, okay? Because now, as I mentioned earlier, in Canada, I wouldn't advise anybody to come and do a postgraduate program, a certificate program. I mean, it's doable, but you see, the number of years you need to go to school, for now, even if you go to school for a year, it's not enough to earn you your postgraduate work permits. Okay. So I would always advise that you look for you if you're currently in school, just up your grades, just try to put more effort in getting a second class upper and a first class to be able to do a master's program. Okay. These ones will help you, at least for a master's program, maybe 1 year and some few months. After that, you get your postgraduate work permits, and you'll be able to get your permanent residence after you've worked for a year. And yeah, you become a Canadian citizen. That is if that is where your interest lies. Because I've met people who came to Canada just to study and to go back to Ghana. They actually didn't want to stay. Yeah, so if you're interested in getting a job and getting maybe your permanent residence and a citizenship after school, then please do well to get an APA at least. Okay. All right. So yeah, and if your student who didn't come with a scholarship or whatnot, you know that currently international students are allowed to work 24 hours a week. Okay, it used to be 20. Immigration keeps changing things, and so we never know um, when next you're going to make changes to this. But currently, it's 24 hours a week. And yeah, and in the US, international students on the F1 visa can work up to 20 hours on campus during the term. Okay. Okay. So that's about it. And financial application tips. I'm going to share with you other financial resources. You can take student loans. When you're doing that, please do well to check for low interest options. Okay. Yeah. External grants is also possible. Scholarships from organizations, like organizations in your home country could give you scholarships. It's very possible. Yeah. So you can also look into that. So we're going to just talk about the language proficiency test that some schools, depending on what program you're applying for, what program you want to do, there are some schools that may require you to write the IELTS. Okay. If it's for school, it's definitely IELTS academic, TOEFL. Okay. And these days, most schools accept Duolingo. Okay, 120 plus, that is the score. And TOEFL is 90 plus, IELTS is 6.5 plus. But with a Duolingo, some schools now accept, yeah, they accept that. So for the US, the Standardized tests for programs in the US will be the GRE, the GMAT, the SAT. Okay. So yeah, those are required for many US graduate programs, the GRE and the GMAT, most business programs um, in the US. And yeah, most of the application scores in Canada ranges from maybe 100 to $150. And in the US to maybe 50 to $100, most of the schools. Okay. So it's not that expensive. And there are chances you can even get waivers if they are available, or if you're a low income student, it's possible that you can get a waiver with the application fees. Okay. Um, and I'm going to just share this with you. Um, so people sometimes you have very high hopes that probably when you apply to this very one school, you will get admission. But I will always advise that you apply to at least three schools. Apply to three schools at least. If you don't get one, or if you don't get all two, maybe you may end up getting one school. You may end up getting an admission in one school. Okay. And yeah, your dream school can be highly competitive. So depending on your grades, depending on the requirement from the school, you need to check that very well before applying. Okay. And make sure that you're meeting all the requirements. When you're applying for a school, you check the requirements on your website. Be sure that you're meeting all the requirements. Don't be like, okay, even though I don't meet the requirements, I'm going to try. I mean, if you're okay with just throwing the money in the air, or just, taking the risk, I'll say, if you don't mind taking the risk, then just go ahead and apply. Okay. If you're applying for a school, just make sure that, okay, with all the requirements they are provided, you're actually exceeding their requirements. I think it's very necessary. Then it will give you a higher hope of getting that school. Okay. So yeah, just make a spreadsheet. That's what I advise. And you track the deadlines, the documents, and how the school communicates with you. Okay. And when you put in all your resumes and your SOPs and your reference letters together, please, even after getting them from your professors, I mean, your lecturers from your home country, do well to proofread all your documents before you submit them. Okay, so which is why I always tell you the schools may be open within this time, but make sure that you are preparing, you're getting your stuff together, you're preparing, you're proofreading and everything. So when applications or when admissions open and you're submitting, you know that you've done your due diligence before you submit everything. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I would say that applying to universities in Canada and the US may seem, very overwhelming, but with a clear plan and I mean, thorough, thorough preparation, you can maximize your chances of getting admitted. Okay. So, and maybe even getting funding. So, um, yeah. So just remember, it's not just about grades, or your story. Um, Motivation and persistence are equally important for success with this whole school application process. Yeah. So I hope this helps. I wish you the very best in your application